Good afternoon. We are going to start this out with a prayer. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Pastor Craig.
Good afternoon. Would you please join with me in a moment of prayer? Gracious God, we gather here this afternoon to honor Lorenzo Joseph Iowani D'Imperio. Lorenzo was a son, a brother, a friend, and a soldier. Lorenzo stood tall and brave in the face of danger. For our freedom he fought with a burden he bore. An immigrant who adopted our country, Lorenzo went to Vietnam and fought in a fierce war. He stood by our country without any fear. Lorenzo sacrificed all, his birth family, his adopted family, his close friends for a just cause. At such a young age, he answered the final silent call. Lorenzo gave his best. Lorenzo gave everything. Thank you, Lorenzo, for your duty is complete. In our hearts, your memory will live on forever. We thank you for your service and your great sacrifice. In our thoughts and in our prayers, you will forever remain a hero, a son, a brother, a friend, and a beacon of strength. May you find peace in the arms of the divine, a place without any harm, a place without any danger. We salute you, Lorenzo, with love and with care. Your legacy and your story and your compassion we will continue to share with others. God bless you, Lorenzo, and may God bless his family, and may God bless our beloved country. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Craig Filler. Thank you, each and every one, for being here this moment. There is no other place on earth that God wants you to be, but right here, right now, at this place, to honor Joseph Iowani D'Imperio. He was born February 20th, 1943 in Venosa, Italy. He died January 27th, 1968 at the age of 24 in Vietnam. Lorenzo came to the United States of America when he was 9 years old through Catholic Charities. He lived at Jack Reef, a hamlet of Memphis, New York. Over a restaurant, the Jack Reef Hotel was owned by his American parents, Harry and Maria D'Imperio, brother David, sister Josephine. He went to Jordan Elementary School and graduated from Mount Carmel High School in Auburn in 1965. I never knew Lorenzo's birth name, Iowani. I only knew him by D'Imperio, his adopted name. I don't remember exactly when we first met, but it was in the spring of 1966. It was a case of two opposites meeting and becoming friends. Lorenzo and I would spend time together, enjoying dinners, and he would borrow my car when I was working so he could take ladies out on dates. Lorenzo was outgoing, charismatic, and handsome. Me, I was shy, quiet, and awkward around young women. Lorenzo's mother, Maria, fixed his last meal before shipping out for us to eat together upstairs above the restaurant where they lived. The next day, Lorenzo and his dad stopped by to see me on their way to the airport. His last words to me, "I will not be home." I said, "Don't talk like that." In a few short weeks, he was killed in Vietnam. I could never find Lorenzo's name on the Vietnam Memorial because I was looking for under D'Imperio, not Iowani. I skipped the whole chapter. One time, he became, you should have told me. One time, he became really upset with me when he wanted to date a young lady named Priscilla, but her grandmother wouldn't let her go out unless her cousin went along on a double date. I refused the blind date. This took place in the fall of 1966. Several years later, on August the 26th, 1972, I married my wife Kathy, and we discovered that she would have been my blind date that night. Kind of an important chapter. I started my quest to find Lorenzo's military records when Anne Marie Burkle was in office as our congresswoman. Her aide, Earl, was very helpful, but had no success. Dan McFay, the next person I connected with. Again, no luck. The next was John Katko. No luck, and his aide hung up the phone when I asked for written documentation on what was done so far. That was in June of 2022. I decided to wait for the new congressperson, Brandon Williams. Congressman Williams' aide, Kelly Lantry, has been outstanding in obtaining all the medals Lorenzo received. Kelly graciously donated the flag by the memorial and the shadow box that's there on the table for the display. And Steve Wahlberger of SCW Construction making and donating the shadow box. Jay Mayer, owner of the Reef, for hosting this event and displaying the memorial. The memorial will be displayed where this picture is here, and he's moving this picture over to the other wall. Thank you, Jay. Lorenzo's proudest days were the day he joined the Marines, July 3rd, 1967. Bragging, he chose the Marines because they're the best. He died protecting and serving his adopted country. Lorenzo was a loyal friend, an exceptional human being, and a brave soldier. Thank you for joining me, or us, for this honor in his memory. Thank you again. Brandon Williams, thank you.
Paul, thank you. That was terrific. And Jay, I would just want to say thanks for hosting us here and for being the place to hold these awards and medals. Stephanie and I were here just 2 weeks ago for dinner, sitting over here, our date night out, and I can commend it to you. I want to start just by saying I'm a Navy veteran, and perhaps that makes a difference in the focus of my office and the focus of the talented people we have, like Kelly and Chris. But I'm a Navy veteran, and I married into an Army family. So, and I'll talk about that. But Stephanie grew up on Army bases worldwide, and I will introduce a little family connection to Lorenzo's story. But I want to try to tie up this story in a slightly different way than Paul has presented it, maybe from a different perspective with the same facts or similar facts. So if I repeat Paul, forgive me. But today we're here to celebrate and remember a fallen Marine infantryman who died close to the DMZ in Vietnam on January 27th, 1968. Recall that the DMZ is the farthest north part of South Vietnam, where Laos, North Vietnam, South Vietnam all come together. There's a lot of reasons this is where much of the fiercest fighting was in the Vietnam War. As Paul said, when he was just 9 years old, he immigrated to this country with the help of Catholic Charities, who continues to do amazing work even today, bringing people into, welcoming them into the United States. Lorenzo was leaving a war-torn country, and America was the refuge and opportunity of a lifetime for a 9-year-old boy coming out of post-war Italy. He was placed in a foster home, as was said. I believe it's right down the street. Isn't that the old?
Right here.
Oh, right here. Okay. And this became his home. And as Paul said, Harry and Marie became his adopted family. And Jack's Reef, or now the Reef, quite literally was his home, and that's where we are today. He attended Jordan Elementary. As was said, attended a Catholic high school in the area, American in every possible way, and just want to point out that Paul is one of his childhood friends and is an essential part of the story. So as we think about this story is about an immigrant, it's about a foster family, it's about a true American patriot, and it's about an enduring friendship. So as the Vietnam War heated up in 1967, Lorenzo volunteered to serve in the Marine Corps, right? The Marines were all volunteer. And as he said, it was because they were the best. He would brag to his friends. Now, I was in the Navy, and I don't ever argue with Marines, I can tell you. He enlisted on July 3rd. Interesting date for an Italian immigrant to join our Marine Corps. And he did it because he loved this adopted country. He believed in America. He believed that he had an obligation to America. Maybe you don't hear that very much today. And he was proud to be American. The dinner celebrated here, his last meal at home, that Paul celebrated the last time Paul saw him, and he shipped out to boot camp.
No, shipped out to Vietnam, excuse me.
Oh, he had to go to boot camp at some point.
Prior to that.
Okay. He came back in between, gotcha, he came
Yes.
back from boot camp on leave, and then shipped right out.
And then shipped out. Excuse me.
No, that's fine. Just a few weeks in his deployment, being in country in Vietnam, he was killed. By coincidence, Stephanie's father served 10 miles away, just months after Lorenzo's death at Quezon. And so our family history, we know firsthand the stories of how fierce the fighting was at that time and in that place. Years later, as Paul said, he went searching for the memory of his friend on the Vietnam War Memorial in D.C. 59,000 names are on that wall. And he couldn't find his friend, couldn't find Lorenzo's name, until he realized that he had enlisted under his given Italian name. Years later, Paul really sought to restore his records and awards, and that's what's brought us here today. And as he said, for more than 10 years, Paul sought the help of the member of Congress to get these records. But it wasn't until he talked to Kelly Landry, who focuses on veteran issues, that he started getting somewhere, and that was just earlier this year. And in that time, overcoming a lot of the inertia and a lot of the, frankly, indifference that a bureaucracy can have, it really was the persistence of Kelly to find a way to get Paul access to these records. They won't give them to a friend. You've got to be a family member. And to do that, no one knew how to solve that puzzle, but Kelly found out. And so what we're celebrating here today is more than just his sacrifice and his patriotism of Lorenzo, but we're also celebrating the enduring friendship. Who among us wishes that we had more friends like Paul? So I really do commend you for your persistence and love for your friend. Paul, thank you for letting me be a part of this amazing story. It is amazing when you see the sequence and the persistence. An immigrant, a foster family, a patriot, and a friend. And so it's a pleasure to get to participate in that. I just want to say that providing services to veterans is my job, and it's something we're passionate about, and we're very fortunate that we have the talented people like Kelly and also like Chris Burtis, our district director, to lead that. Thank you for coming and honoring Lorenzo and honoring Paul today. It says a lot about who we are as a community that you be here today. Thank you. Okay. So how do we present the awards? What's the... By the way, here's a map of where Lorenzo was serving, where he died, where he was based out of, and then here's Quezon, just 10 miles away, where Stephanie's father was just a little bit later that same year.
Wow.
So this is Laos, North Vietnam, and then the DMZ is the shaded part. Not where he wanted to be in 1968. So, God bless him. Sure. Paul, it's my honor to award these to you. Many of them, like the National Defense Ribbon and Medal, the Service in Vietnam Medal I've seen on Stephanie's father's uniform. And you know, these are the medals consistent with the service of an infantryman, you know, in combat at that time. And so I present those to you, but in particular, I'll give that to you. But in particular, I'd like to give you this Purple Heart, which sadly we've had too many of, but it's belated, but here it is today, and I'm so glad that his friend Paul is here to receive it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
These medals are now finally where they belong.
All right.
Thank you, Kelly. Kathy, this is a note that Joy Carbonaro wrote, and my wife is going to read. Joy is unable to be here today because she's ill, she's hospitalized, she's got COPD, and she also has anxiety attacks. But she's getting better.
Joy was 7 and Lorenzo was 9 when a photo was taken, and there's one over on display for you to see as well. There was another little girl that was with us, and they called us the Terrible Trio. He and I were terribly competitive, I was jealous because he could outdo me every time. He could run faster, swim further, ride his bike faster, climb higher. Poor kid, he was trying to impress me, and I was such a brat. One time I put my arm through a window at a friend's home. I was pounding and I missed the wood. I severed an artery and had to have 12 stitches. I was quite the celebrity, briefly. Not a week later, he was running after someone, and he ran through a grocery store door. And it was plate glass. He couldn't stop in time, and he had 102 stitches. I was livid that he had outdone me again and stolen my star status. How we laughed about it years later. Lorenzo was kind, gentle, generous human being. He was my friend since childhood, one of the truest and most loyal I have ever known. I'm filled with pride that I call him my friend. Sleep, sweet prince, for you're not forgotten. All my love, with all my heart, for all my life. Joy.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? Any childhood friends? Oh, Mr. Warner.
Thank you, Paul. Paul and I graduated together from, a little while ago,
Yes.
1960. But I remember Lorenzo, I lived up the road just a little ways, about 60 years ago. He seemed to be kind of the normal kid. We kind of run around with old cars sometimes, minus license plates. But he was a good kid. And unlike Lorenzo, who joined the Marines, I got drafted. And I called the draft board and I said, you know, I'm not all that happy about this. And he says, well, nitwit, you got two choices, either get in here or get arrested. So I said, I'd see you Monday morning. Probably the best 2 years of my life, military. And what a nice turnout here and a nice program here for Lorenzo. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Paul.
Can I interview Kelly? Can I ask Kelly to answer some questions?
Sure.
So Kelly, do you mind? Okay.
Kelly Lantry?
Ed, is it working? No?
I think it is. Is it? No? Test 1, 2, 3. No. Test.
No? Quit? We gotta speak up.
All right.
If you speak up loud, we hear you.
Okay. Kelly, you're also a great part of the story, and I just so much value what you add to our office. Do you mind describing what you do in our office?
Sure. So
Yes,
I
be
am
glad.
there for constituent service. Any constituents in our district that have any type of issue or concern, call. And I handle the specialty area of veterans, veterans needs, veterans affairs, anything to do with veterans. And Paul was one of my very first cases.
What do you like about your job? This is not an interview, by the way.
Well, I gotta tell you, I feel out of all the different areas of casework, the veteran one, when I was asked if I would be interested in that job, I jumped at it because I thought, what more honorable thing to do than to help our veterans? And I've grown to just love it, every aspect of it, I really do. I grow attached to some cases that, you know, it pulls at my heartstrings, and this case is particularly, I actually walk around now with a wallet-sized picture of Lorenzo because I've grown so attached to him. So it's just always an honor to be able to work with any of the veterans that have specific needs. And I just loved when Mr. Kulba came in and had this endearing love for his friend that he had been trying for almost a decade to get what should have been much easier to get. So I was compelled to just do my best to see it through.
Your family ties to the monument.
Oh, yes, and there was a lot that he brought in with the case, pictures, things that he had, you know, found along the way all those years. And one was from a website where he had there was a picture of Lorenzo's headstone in a graveyard, and I thought, this is familiar, I know I see this headstone, and I thought, well, it can't be because my family is in Assumption Cemetery in the city of Syracuse, and he's out in Memphis and Jordan area, so I must be mistaken, but it just kept calling to me, and then the more we researched, we saw that he indeed was buried at Assumption Cemetery, and it's right in the front row on Court Street, so I've been passing it my entire life to get to my own family's plot and to walk into that cemetery. So there's been several stories throughout this whole journey that has tied Lorenzo into all the people that are basically here too. It's woven so many things into the story that it's just been so great to be a part of.
How were you able to get the information when they said that you had to have family involved? Did you talk to?
How did you succeed where others had failed?
Okay, so I think when I first got the first denial from the agency, which is the National Personnel Records Center, I just read through it clearly as to why it was denied, and it was because it needed to be next of kin. But that sent me to, well, let me just do some more research, which I love researching, if you haven't figured that out. So I was able to research and find that if you're not next to kin, there has to be another avenue. And that's when I was able to find that if we could find someone that would be considered next to kin and have them sign off on a waiver allowing this information to be given to someone that was searching for it, would he agree to do that? And Mr. Pulver reached out to Lorenzo's stepbrother, who's here. I don't know where he is now, Mr. D'Imperio, and he agreed to, there he is in the back, and he agreed very graciously to sign off and was happy to do so, and that I then sent that waiver in along with some other supporting documentation, and weeks or maybe a month or so later, we got the approval. And then that went on to the United States Marine Corps, the Pentagon, and then they released medals and records. And so we slowly first got the records, and then the medals came in. So, and I couldn't have been happier that day so that I could call Mr. Kuba and share that news with him, that his journey finally, he was able to get what he had been searching for so long.
Wow.
So that's the great story.
There's a lot of things with this whole, I don't know, endeavor that aren't coincidences. They're fact, they happen. Let's see, probably a week and a half ago on Monday, I was looking for Juanita Perez Williams' phone number because I spoke with her at the wall when we were having lunch. She told me to ask John Paddock for help because John knows a lot of people. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. He's busy enough as it is and organizing everything. Well, I forgot Juanita's name. So I called John and asked him what it was. And then I told him why I wanted it. And he says, oh, you're talking about Lorenzo and David. I mean, John grew up just up the street. Correct? And thank you.
Hey, Paul,
Yes.
could I just say a word, please? Just say a word, could I say a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Rick Shambo, and I'm a high school graduate from Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Auburn, and
Oh, it's Our Lady.
probably 10 or 12 of us that are classmates of Lorenzo. And I too am a Vietnam veteran, and when I visited the wall, probably back in the late 80s, I too could not find Lorenzo D'Imperio, and it became an obsession with me. Joanne and I had numerous phone calls over the last years, and all I can say is that it's about time this kid got his just due. God bless him, and any of us that served over there knew what it was like. So,
Thanks for your service.
After this is over, on the big screen, there's going to be a video of an Italian video of Lorenzo's family from Venosa, Italy, his brothers and sisters. A TV station did the interview, but it's all in Italian. Been trying to get it translated. Someday I will.
About a third
it
of
will
Utica
happen.
could translate it, by the way. I just thought I'd throw that out there, so we could pull in somebody from Utica.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. But,
Welcome to view the video. It's about a half an hour, different phases. It shows him coming in. It shows David being interviewed, and Camillus and Joy, who really did a lot of work years ago trying to put a remembrance of Lorenzo together. So take a moment to view that. And it talks about how poor they were, and it shows them digging potatoes in the field, to eat. Okay, but thank you very much. Now, anybody else?
John.
Oh, John's gonna.
I feel
shamed him into it.
a little compelled to say a couple words. First, Paul, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for what you're doing. And Paul is one of our stellar, especially after this moment, one of our stellar honor flight volunteers. I happen to have been the co-founder and until last year president of Honor Flight Syracuse. Paul has been helping me out, showed up at the receptions, helped us out with the receptions for the veterans the night before Honor Flight, and also been one of my military biography researchers, where we try and make sure we have a little understanding about who's on the flight with us. And what a rewarding task that is. I talk to Navy guys, Paul talks to Army guys, but his work continues in another era. He's got an assignment for this upcoming Honor Flight.
Just yesterday.
Yeah, since yesterday. Paul's back on the docket for 3 more. But for those who might be interested in Honor Flight, we fly veterans to Washington to view the memorials to their service, all eras. And I'll be around, but Paul knows how to get a hold of me. A lot of people know me here. As far as the connection to Lorenzo and David and their older sister Josie here, and several other people I've touched base with today, we grew up here. I grew up a mile up the road. This place was populated with beautiful, well-maintained family farms in the 50s and 60s. We played football and baseball back here where they had clam bakes. Lorenzo, I remember him well to this day. And as Paul said, Lorenzo, I was a small, puny guy, not much of an athlete, and Lorenzo was a lot of fun to be around, a great little athlete, and we played ball, we did all these things together, but his laugh, I remember to this day, as soon as Paul mentioned it on the phone the other day, I said, his laugh was absolutely infectious. I learned how to laugh from Lorenzo D'Imperio. So thank you again, Paul.
Thank you. One more quick note. The bridge over here, the kids used to dive off and go into the river. Joy was diving in one day and she didn't come up. Lorenzo jumped in, cut her bathing suit off. She was hooked onto a car down the river, and he saved her life. Then he was teasing her because he wouldn't give her a bathing suit. This was a story from Joy. But thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to give a benediction. Thank you, Paul, for inviting me here today. What an honor to, be here and give a prayer, opening prayer and benediction. Thank you all for coming. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May God turn his face towards you and give you peace this day and always. Amen.
Amen. 1 second. You might want to open this here. My thank yous.
I will say, I'm an assistant pastor at the United Church of Christ in Bay Bear, and it's just a joy to see Paul and Kathy every week. I'm very honored. Oh my goodness. This is faith. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and that's my favorite verse, Paul.
Is it?
Yeah.
Good.